So I'm here with Ethan Eckenroad, aka a member of Team Adam over at The
Mhm.
Voice, season 27. Ethan, pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, Greg, you as well. I'm just happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I apologize because I did not get you for the blinds, and you're gonna answer this question that you've heard a million times.
It's
What
okay.
was what was it like to get that four-chair turn, and maybe watching that on television as well? Sort of that double whammy, the day of, and then watching it on television.
Sure. Day of, very surreal. I joke I don't remember after the first two people turned. Yeah, once Adam and Kelsey turned, I joke like I don't even remember if I sang anything right. So it was really nice to be able to watch it all back and kind of relive that experience just because yeah, I mean, you forget all the little nuances that happened and even what some of the coaches had said. So yeah, it was really sweet to relive that and especially being able to watch it again with family and friends. So
Right, and then you were able to watch it, I'm assuming, with family and friends, the
mhm.
battles. And I really loved your battle with Fran.
Yeah,
We get to see a portion of it, but how much work did you and Fran do leading up to the battles? And what is that type of energy and work put into it like?
sure. Fran and I did a lot of work leading up into it. It was interesting, especially if you hear from the rehearsal. Um, we had we did a lot of work. I guess not necessarily like with the song and how it flows, but a lot of like emotional work to some degree. It was just tough, both of us coming from like we know each other but not super well, and you're singing a song about change and the breakups and like all this stuff. So we got some really cool advice of just think of this as just two really good friends just talking about inventing and talking about the relationship they had. And yeah, it was sweet going through that process with somebody just real time. And I don't know, it was a lot of emotional work, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right. And on the work period, what are the biggest lessons you've learned from your experience on The Voice? You're
Mhm.
already an experienced artist, but what are some of the tangible lessons regarding your craft that you can take away?
Sure. Tangible first thing for me was my confidence. Going into it, I wasn't really sure where I stood. I come from a small town, and I love my town, but there's not a huge like measuring stick, if that makes sense, to kind of compare myself to. So I wasn't really sure how good I was. Um, I still struggle with that, honestly. But being able to be there and get the confidence that I need to kind of make this a career and really run with it has been really sweet. But even just with that confidence, being able to sing with a little fuller and not hold back as much, it was definitely something I was able to take away from this experience.
Ethan, on your Instagram profile, the first thing you mention is how to describe yourself as you're a songwriter.
Mhm.
On the Spotify, on your Spotify page, you mentioned the reasons you write songs, I'm paraphrasing, is to connect with other people.
Yeah,
Where does that passion, because a lot of people say they songwrite because they want to show off their skill, their
yeah,
craft, tell a
yeah.
story, but yours is a direct connection to people. That's awesome. I wonder where that love and passion for other people comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a couple years ago, I was a part of a church and uh, it was a church plant. I was a part of it. It's what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. I was leading worship at this place, and some things happened, and the church ended up closing. And I came to this point that I was like, I don't know what's next for me, and not just me, but a lot of us were going through a lot of hurt. And so I started writing songs about it, and I kind of realized like, man, even if it's not church hurt or anything like that, we share a human experience in some way or another, even if it's vague, it all points to the same thing. And so, yeah, I wanted to write songs about that. We all, in some way or another, want to or need to live life a little fuller. All of us have gone through heartbreak. So, yeah, I just enjoy being able to write songs about that and for people to, regardless of what they're going through, get something from it.
Can you tell our listeners and watchers about your EP, which you released late January, and specifically, how long did it take to craft that EP? And then I want to
Yeah.
ask you the origins behind your song, which I really love, Wandering.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I had been kind of thinking about releasing some music anyways, and I had reached out to a friend who lived in the area. His name was Brent Michael Stort, and I reached out to him and I knew he had recorded some stuff in the past. I was like, hey, I'd be love to work with you if you'd be willing. And he's like, I would love to. Do you have until mid-January? Because he was moving right in the middle of January to Nashville. So I was like, all right, so we're really gonna push through this. Thankfully, a lot of my stuff is pretty simple. Like I don't have a lot of bells and whistles in my music, so it wasn't too difficult to put it all together. I think in total it took us about a month and a half or something like that. Yeah, it was a really neat experience. It was definitely the first time that I was like, oh, this is actually a song. It's not just something I'm playing in our studio or anything like that. Like this is actually kind of coming together.
And one of your tracks, Wandering, just how
Yeah.
long did that, just creating that song, it seems very personal
Hmm.
and very resonant, that
Yeah,
track.
yeah. So I don't know. A lot of my songs I feel like either come to me really, really quick or I work with it forever. This song specifically, I feel like I had everything written but a chorus and I really wasn't sure where to go with it. The song itself is roughly based on the story of Jonah. I don't know how like familiar you are with it, but in the sense of I feel like we're all running from something and for the longest time that's where I was and being in a season after the my church closed, I wasn't sure what was next, and I almost gave up music. And realizing that I can't just let the talent or gift that I have just go to waste. I don't know. I just really leaned into that, regardless of how far I've gone or run away. Like I've always God's right there. So yeah. It came once I hit that moment. It came pretty quick, I guess.
Pretty quick, was that the same experience for Chase the Sun? It's very catchy. Really enjoyed the message behind it.
Yeah, that one was definitely a lot. Feel like some tunes like that, you catch the hook of the song and you just kind of run with it. So that one I actually wrote a while ago. It was probably 2 years ago when I really started to start like take my songwriting seriously. Yeah, it came a little bit quicker, but it was a fun one to write because it's just live your life, and if you're breathing, you still got something to live for. So
On a personal note, I grew up in a big city. I'm here in Los
yeah.
Angeles, and I've always wondered what it's like to go be raised and live in a small town.
Hmm.
And you're mentioning, I guess, hiking. You love hiking as well. What
Hmm.
are some of the
Yeah.
advantages of living in a small town as opposed to where I'm at in a congested, smog-filled
Sure.
city?
So it's a blessing and a curse, but everybody knows your name, which is recently has definitely been more so. Um, the other day I got stopped at a Goodwill and it started at I work at a coffee shop and I recognized an old customer that was there. Stood and talked with her, and the next thing you know, I had like five or six other people coming around me. At first, a lot of the attention was a little draining. I'm an introvert, so it was tough for me to like keep my social battery charged all the time. But I had a gentleman come up to me and he was like, "Hey, you don't know me, but he's like, you have no idea how proud this town is of you." He's like, again, you have no idea. I don't know if this means anything to you, but you have a whole community backing you. So it's been pretty sweet. And honestly, for me, it's like I know it's not something that some other contestants are getting, especially in an LA or in a New York. Like there's, millions of people within a city, whereas a place like this, like it's a little more special for people to some degree because there's a lot of hometown pride built in with it.
Ethan, I know a lot of fellow artists or just people who are not artists actually
Hmm.
relate to you because of the idea of imposter syndrome.
Hmm.
When people message you about how do I get over my imposter syndrome, or what elements have you found that really helped you just push forward with your art, even though you have that imposter syndrome thing in your
Sure.
conscience? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Honestly, it's what you just said. Just keep pushing through it. You kind of gotta, I think there's a point you gotta lie to yourself a little bit and be like, I know my mind is telling me you're not good enough to do it, but there's a support system that's telling me you can, and you got to learn to shut off your own mind and listen and trust your support system. But yeah, it's just owning it. I think more than anything is just saying if this is what you're gonna do, you got to pull up your boots, do it, and get to work. It's definitely not easy. It's something I'm still struggling with, especially recently. But yeah, you just own it. Know that you are chosen to do something and you have a gift to do something and just run with it.
Then I'm going to probably ask you the most impossible question in the interview. Can you name one of your all-time favorite albums? And what is it about this album that still speaks to you today, that resonates with you, not just as a musician, singer, songwriter, but
Sure.
just as a fan?
Sure. Um, it's actually more of a recent album, and I sang his song for my blind audition, so it was really, really special. But Noah Kahan's Stick Season album, um, the second it came out, I was hooked. Not only just the genre, I mean, it's what I like, and it's what kind of inspired me to keep writing. But just the rawness of the lyrics and the idea, I feel like just I don't know if when he wrote it he was trying to do this, but the amount of people that you see who listen to this album who talk about I can just relate with it and I can connect with it. And like you said earlier, like that's what I want with my songwriting is to just be able to connect with people. So yeah, it's one that I still listen to, and it's one that is definitely continues to inspire me as I keep writing.
Ethan, just final question again. Thanks for your time. When people come
Hmm.
up to you, or whether it's in person or it's messaging you, DMing you, and asking for maybe advice on how to get
Hmm.
on The Voice, I know it's a blanket statement, but what kind of statement or just analysis or insight can you give people regarding that?
Sure. I I struggle with this a little bit just because the voice is never something that I like wanted to do. Somebody reached out to me and was like, "Hey, you should send in some videos." But I think regardless of how whether you're doing the open audition or whether somebody reaches out to you, I think the biggest thing is just believe in yourself. If you're going to do it, you can't go in half-hearted, and I believe that with anything, even if it's not music, if it's job, if it's leaving your hometown, whatever it is, you got to believe that you can do it. And yeah, put down the imposter syndrome, take the step, just get over yourself and learn to live a little.
Just a curious question. I could be wrong. I'm recalling and watching the battles.
Mhm.
I think you asked the question about the balancing your family and your work.
Yes.
How is that working for you in general? And again,
Um,
thank you. Thank you.
yeah, no, it's been going great so far. My wife and I, even before all this happened, we made the decision that we would stay in this area and we would travel for any opportunity that I had just because family is important to us. But it's been really sweet. My daughter's over a year old now. So being able to see like her reaction and stuff, like if I'm on the television, she's actually like responding to it. So it's really sweet. And I'm excited that as she gets older, hopefully I can inspire her to live her best life too. But yeah, it's been great so far.
Ethan, again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Greg, thanks for having me, man.
All right, you take care. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.